Welcome back to Northern Tales, where powerful stories of women from northern Nigeria comes alive. Let's continue our story. In part one of When the Moon Stopped Smiling, Aisha's mother dies when she was a child, and she has grown enduring the cruelty of her stepmother. In a final act of desperation to restore peace in his house, her father married her off at the age of 17 to a 40-year-old woman who has two wives. Let's continue the story. The first week of marriage felt like being in a strange play. People came to visit, clapped her on the back, said things like, "You're lucky. Haruna is a good man, and you'll be a mother soon, inshallah." She sat in silence through it all, lips pressed tight, her heart sitting like a stone in her chest. Haruna was kind at first, too kind. He brought her clothes, gold earrings, sugarcane, meat, perfume, chicken. He spoke softly to her, like a man trying to win a stranger's trust. "You are beautiful," he said, "Wow. You will love me one day." But Aisha was not interested in love. She missed her books. She missed her classroom. She missed walking freely without fear of someone touching her without permission. And when she asked quietly, "Can I go back to school?" Haruna frowned. "School?" he repeated. "My wife doesn't need school." "I only told your father that just to calm him down. You don't need to be running around like a girl. You're a woman now." The promise of her to go back to school was dead on arrival. She never shouted, she never fought him. But when he touched her, she froze. When he leaned close, she turned away. When he whispered, she winced. And that annoyed him. At first, he sulked. Then he started shouting. Then he started using his fists. "You think I begged for this marriage? You think you're too good for me? I feed you, clothe you, and this is how you repay me?" The beatings came after long silences. Aisha would wake up to his kindness, and by nightfall it turned to violence. On some nights, he would force himself on her, even as she whimpered and begged him to stop. And in the morning, he had said nothing, just leave her there, bruised and aching. There are some pains the body can heal from, but Aisha's pain took root in her soul. A few months later, Aisha felt ill. The nausea, the dizziness, the change in her body. She knew even before anyone told her she was pregnant. She didn't know what to feel. Not joy, not fear, just numbness. But by the fourth month, the cramping began. The bleeding followed. There was no hospital nearby, no vehicles fast enough. But by the time they got to the clinic in the next town, the nurse only shook her head. "The baby is gone." Aisha stared at the ceiling as they cleaned her up. She didn't cry, she didn't speak. She just lay there, still as stone, as if her soul had gone quiet again, like the moon after it's swallowed by the clouds. It had been 3 weeks since the miscarriage. Aisha hadn't left her room in days. The morning light crept in through the broken window slats, but it didn't touch her. The walls were bare, the air heavy, and her body still ached in places she no longer mentioned, even to herself. Haruna stopped speaking to her altogether. He came and went like a shadow. Sometimes he didn't even return at night. He slept in the other woman's house, and strangely, that was better for her. She sat still most days, staring at nothing, thinking of everything. "This is my life," she thought. "This is how it will end. Quiet, forgotten, beaten into obedience, then buried." Then one morning there was a knock at the door, not from Haruna, not from a neighbor. It was Fatima, a girl from her old school. Fatima had always been warm and talkative. She had gone on to finish secondary school and was now in a teacher training program in the nearby town. She wore a bright hijab and held a small bag of oranges. "I heard you were sick," she said gently, "so I came to check on you." Aisha hadn't smiled in weeks, but something in her eyes flickered. Fatima didn't stay long, just long enough to sit with her and hold her hand like no one had in years. Before she left, she pressed a small book in Aisha's hand. This book changed how I saw everything," she said. "I know you love reading. Please read it." Then she was gone. It was an old weathered copy of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. At first, Aisha simply stared at it. She touched the corners, flipped the pages. The words felt strange at first, heavy, foreign, yet somehow familiar. But as she read, something shifted inside her. The way the young Maya found her voice after pain, the way she rose from abandonment, abuse, and silence to become something more, the way she was caged, yet still sang. Aisha put the book down that night and stared at the ceiling. Tears came slowly, not like a flood, but a wound reopening gently. And then the thoughts poured in. She thought of her father who gave her away like she was a sack of rice. She thought of Rekia who stole her childhood and never paid a price. She thought of her aunts and uncles who saw the bruises and said, "That's how stepmothers are." She thought of the village, of the whispers, of the silence, of the injustice. And in that quiet, something finally snapped. Not like a breakdown, but like a thread pulling tight inside her soul. She whispered aloud, "Nobody is coming." She looked around the dark room, then at her own hands, and she said again, louder this time, "Nobody is coming, but I can live." Not for revenge, not to prove anything, but to survive. To give herself a chance to start again. Maybe not in this village, maybe not with a husband, maybe not in a classroom just yet, but anywhere but here. The night she left, Aisha didn't pack much. She took a wrapper, a faded hijab, a copy of Maya Angelou's book tucked inside her blouse, and hope, trembling, quiet, but alive again. She waited until Haruna had gone out. She slipped out of the back gate, her heart beat loud in her ears. There was no tearful goodbye, no one to leave a note for, just silence and the sound of her sandals brushing against the dusty road. Her escape had been made possible by a woman named Malama Hawa, an older lady from the next village who was known for helping girls find work in cities. She wasn't known for kindness, only for efficiency. Aisha had heard of her through a neighbor's niece who had gone to Lagos. She found her, pleaded with her, and after inspecting Aisha from head to toe, Hawa finally said, "Can you speak English?" Aisha nodded. Hmm, Hawa responded, "Abuja will be good for you. I have a client, but she doesn't understand Hausa." 2 days later, Aisha was crammed in the back of a faded Peugeot 504, sharing space with another girl and a sack of onions. They drove for hours through villages, broken roads, tall points, and city edges that glittered with promises and lies. By the time they arrived in Abuja, the sky was orange with dust and sun. Aisha had never seen anything like it. The wide roads, tall buildings, moving lights, it felt like the edge of another world. Aisha was taken to her madam, a woman named Mrs. Nnena Okoye, a soft-spoken woman in her late 30s with round cheeks, quick feet, and the kind of eyes that noticed everything. She lived in a clean two-bedroom flat in Gwarimpa with her 3 children, 2 girls and a boy, all in primary school. When Hawa introduced Aisha as a respectful girl who needs work, Nena raised an eyebrow. She looks very young. She can clean, bathe the children, cook rice, and she even speaks English, Hawa responded. That made Nena pause. She turned to Aisha gently. "You went to school?" Aisha nodded, eyes lowered. "And you can speak English?" "Yes, ma," Aisha said softly. Something in Nena's expression softened. "You will stay here," she said. "You will be treated well, but you must be honest and hardworking. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma," Aisha answered. That night, Aisha slept on a clean mattress in a small storeroom that smelled of Dettol and rice. There were children's laughter coming from the next room. The television was still on. The lights stayed on all night. And Aisha, for the first time in years, did something she hadn't done in a long time. She exhaled. Days in the Okoye household began early. At 5:30 a.m., Aisha was already up, sweeping the corridor, setting water to boil, and preparing school uniforms and breakfast before the children woke up. Mrs. Nena Okoye noticed everything. She noticed how Aisha ironed with care, not rush, how she wiped the children's shoes as though she were polishing gold, how she never raised her voice even when the youngest spilled tea or threw tantrums. Most househelps she has had before were either too distracted or too withdrawn, but Aisha was always present. She bathed the children with patience, braided the girls' hair neatly for school, and walked them to the junction each morning. In the evenings, she helped them with homework, gently correcting them in soft English, drawing animals on scraps paper to make learning fun. She even taught them how to fold clothes properly and speak respectfully to adults. One afternoon, as they sat folding laundry together, Nena asked, Aisha, where are your parents? Aisha looked up briefly, then back down at the towel in her hand. My mother died when I was small, she said. My father remarried. Nena waited, sensing there was more, but Aisha gave only a small smile and returned to her task. That night, as she tucked her own children in bed, Nena sat for a while thinking, this girl is so soft-spoken, so responsible, and she has sad eyes. Eyes that didn't belong to someone so young, eyes that has seen too much, but said so little. Over the next few weeks, Enena began treating Aisha not like a servant, but like a younger sister. She added Aisha's name to their Saturday grocery list, bought her new slippers, even offered her one of her old handbags. And one evening, she called her into the parlor and handed her a glass of cold malt. You've been working hard, she said. Come and rest small. Aisha took it with both hands and whispered, Thank you, ma. But what Nena didn't say was that she was truly thinking, not just better food or a softer mattress, better life and better future for Aisha. She began making quiet inquiries, asking friends if they knew of adult literacy classes, evening schools, or places where girls like Aisha could continue their education discreetly. Because something told her deep in her spirit that this was not an ordinary girl. This was someone whose wings had been clipped far too early. And if there was something she could do, she would. It started with the little things. Mrs. Nena Okoye would come home from work and ask, how were the children today? Aisha always had an answer, calm, detailed, thoughtful. Then one Saturday evening, as they were shelling egusi in the kitchen, Nena asked again, more carefully this time, Aisha, have you ever thought about going back to school? Aisha paused, her fingers froze mid-shell. I I used to think about it every day, she whispered. Now I only think about it sometimes. And Nena didn't respond immediately. She reached for another handful of seeds and said softly, You're too smart for sometimes. 2 weeks later, Aisha was standing in the small office of Gwarimpa Government Secondary School, her palms sweating, her heart thudding. She had been placed in SS1 again, the same class she left behind. The schedule fit perfectly. She prepared the children for school each morning, helped them dress, pack their bags. At 7:15 a.m., they all walked to the bus stop. She waved at the children's school bus, pulled away. Then she crossed the road and walked herself to class. By 2:30 p.m., she was back home, in time to cook lunch, clean up, and help the children with their homework before Madame returned. Mrs. Okoye never asked Aisha to reduce her workload. She simply picked up some of it herself. During Ramadan, she made sure Aisha had time to rest. She didn't wake her early for chores. She bought her modest new clothes for Eid, gave her transportation to attend Eid prayers, and cooked breakfast before sunset so Aisha could break her fast properly. You are fasting, she asked once with a smile. I hope God answers all your secret prayers. Aisha almost cried that day. No one had ever asked about her prayers in years. One Sunday afternoon, the kids were at their cousin's house. The house was quiet, the windows open. A soft breeze flowed through the living room. Nena and Aisha were folding clothes together when Nena said gently, You never talk about your life before Abuja. And this time Aisha didn't deflect. With trembling hands, she spoke of her mother, Hafsat, of Rekia and the beatings, of her father's silence, of the marriage to Haruna, the pain, the bruises, the baby she never got to hold. Of the night she ran away with nothing but a borrowed hope and a borrowed name. She spoke slowly, voice cracking in places but never stopping. And Nena, she listened without interrupting, without judging. She just listened. When Aisha finished, she lowered her head. I don't expect pity. I just want to learn. I don't need salary. Just help me go to school. I will serve you for the rest of my life. Nena reached over and touched her hand. You don't have to serve me, Aisha. Just live, learn, grow. You deserve that much. That night, Nena called her into the parlor. If you could do anything, anything at all, what will it be? Aisha looked up. For once, her eyes were not full of fear. I want to be a nurse, she said. My mother died giving birth to my brother, and I lost my baby. I want to help others. And Nina smiled. Then that's what we will aim for. By the second year of living with the Okoye, Aisha no longer felt like a househelp. She was now Auntie Aisha. That's what Chisom, the eldest girl, called her when she couldn't find her math book. That's what Ifunanya, the middle child, shouted when Aisha returned from school, running to hug her like a long-lost sister. And Mrs. Okoye made it clear from the start, Aisha was not to be disrespected. She is older than all of you, she told them one morning, and she's working harder than most adults. You will treat her like a member of this family. Full stop. So they did. Aisha cooked for them. She braided hair before school. She scolded gently when they left their socks lying around. She became their second mother, older sister, secret keeper, and homework coach, all rolled into one. And they became the first people in her life to love her without obligation. As SS3 approached, Aisha began to dream out loud. I want to write SSC and JAM, she told Mrs. Okoye one evening. And not just pass, I want to enter School of Nursing. Mrs. Okoye smiled, already 2 steps ahead. She enrolled her in evening lessons, paid the fees without blinking, and reduced Aisha's chores at home. You will cook only during weekends, she said. Let the children start helping. They are old enough. And they were. Chisom started folding laundry. Ifunanya learned to boil rice and fry plantain. Obiora, still small but eager, watered the plants and put away shoes. On the mornings Aisha had exams, the children would say, Good luck, Auntie Aisha. You'll be the best nurse ever. And that was everything. Aisha wrote SSC with a calm determination. Jam came next, tougher, but she was ready. She studied by flashlight when there was no light and the generator was switched off at 12 midnight. She read on the bus while stirring soup. She read everywhere all the time, and when the results came in, she passed all her papers with flying colors. A few months later, her name appeared on the admission list for the School of Nursing Gwagwalada in Abuja. She started, she stared at the paper for a long time, not quite believing. Then she looked at Mrs. Okoye, who had been watching silently. You did it, she said, her voice low with pride. Yes, really did it. Aisha blinked back tears. We did it. God will bless you, ma. Thank you very much. The first day at the School of Nursing Gwagwalada felt like stepping into another universe. Clean uniforms, polished shoes, confident voices, girls with phones tucked into designer bags, chattering in English, switching into Pidgin and Hausa without missing a beat. Boys with thick textbooks and strong handshakes, laughter, perfume, motion. Aisha stood in the middle of it all, her admission letter clutched like a lifeline, eyes darting across the compound. She was here, really here. But inside, something whispered, You don't belong. Even in her perfectly ironed uniform and neat hijab, she felt like a fraud. Other girls spoke about schools in Abuja and just private tutors and biology practicals she had only seen in books. Some came in cars, others compared hostel room sizes. Aisha had come with a small bag of clothes, a notebook, and a hat still unsure if it deserved all this. She listened more than she spoke, observed everything. How they laughed, how they walked, how they raised their hands in class. She answered only when called, but when she did, her voice was clear, her grammar precise, her tone calm. She was a quiet girl, but when she spoke, people turned and listened. There was something about Aisha now. Beauty, yes, unmistakably. Her Fulani heritage had bloomed fully into long cheekbones, golden brown skin that caught the light, and deep, soulful eyes that looked like they had lived 10 lives. But it wasn't just her face, it was the way she carried herself. Straight backed, polite, graceful, like a woman who had once been broken but refused to remain shattered. Her English had sharpened in the Okoye household, was now polished and steady. Her confidence, slow to rise, had now taken roots in her bones. She spoke less, but she said more. She smiled rarely, but when she did, it stayed with you. People didn't know her story, but they saw her presence, the presence that said, I am here and I am staying. One evening, after the noise of registration and new roommates had quieted, Aisha sat under the tree near the school hostel with a pen and paper, and she began to write. Dear Mama, you left when I was 3, but I remember you. I remember your smell, the way you laughed, the way you used to carry me back to our room in the night. I'm sorry I couldn't visit your grave before I left. I didn't know how to say goodbye. So I'm writing this now from nursing school. I made it somehow. I wish you could see me. I wish you knew what I went through, but I think you'll be proud. I've learned how to care for others, how to stand straight, how to forgive without forgetting. There were days I wanted to die. There were nights I prayed not to wake up, but I'm still here, Mama, and I promise I'll keep going. Your daughter, Aisha. Some moons may stop smiling, but they never stop shining, and neither did Aisha. Thank you for watching Northern Tales, where the untold stories of women from northern Nigeria come alive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the continuation of our story. What happened to Haruna? What happened to Aisha's father? Find out in part 3. Until then, may your moon keep smiling.